It looks like working with a realtor will never be the same. The National Association of Realtors was sued because some people claimed that realtors were price gouging and keeping real estate commissions artificially inflated. And this lawsuit has now finally come to an end because the National Association of Realtors agreed to settle by paying $400 million, and they also agreed to get rid of the standard 6% realtor commission. Now, this naturally has some people, especially realtors, concerned because now it's a little bit more uncertain as to how much commission they're going to get. Not to mention, this also has home buyers and home sellers trying to figure out if they can buy or sell a home and keep more money in their pockets instead of giving it to a realtor. And this naturally brings me to two questions that I want to answer and discuss in this video. Number one is, what's going to actually happen with this legal settlement, and what does this mean for realtors, home buyers, and sellers? So we can dive deeper into that. And number two is, why did this actually come up? So let's start by talking about number one, what actually comes out of this settlement. Now, before we do, I want to remind you that on April 2nd, 2024, I'm hosting a live, free, and virtual real estate investing workshop where I'm going to be going over how do I look for and invest my money in real estate. I'll be talking about how to find a good and growing location. How do you find a good cash flowing property? How do you underwrite the numbers? And then how do you maximize your profits as a real estate investor? It's completely free, and you'll also be able to ask me questions live on this call, on this workshop, because, well, it's live and it's virtual. So if you'd like to join me on this workshop, just make sure you register soon because there's a limited number of people that can join live, and I got the link for you down in the description below. Now, the way real estate transactions have worked in the past generally is, let's assume that you own this $500,000 home and you want to list it for sale. You might go out and find a real estate agent who says, sure, I will help you sell this property. I'm going to take a 6% commission. Now, the 6% commission isn't go directly to the listing agent themselves. What they do is they split this commission with the buyer's agent. Because now, me as a listing agent, I'm going to help you list your home for sale. Somebody else is going to be working with the buyer to help them come to your property. So now the person that's paying for this buyer's agent is also the seller of the home. The person that's paying for the listing agent is also the seller of the home. So now you break this up as $15,000, $15,000 that goes to the two agents. And of course, I should also mention that the buyer's agent doesn't actually walk away with $15,000 because you have to pay a lot of fees. Some of this money has to go to your broker. And so you don't actually get all 3%. But that's kind of generally how it has worked. The problem, according to this lawsuit, and I should also premise this with, I am a licensed attorney, but not your attorney, and I am also a licensed real estate agent, although I don't work as an agent anymore. The problem, according to this lawsuit, is now when I go to list my home for sale, I don't have much negotiating room, because now when you come to me and say, hey, let me list your home, I will say, well, can you do it for 5% or 4% or 3%? And the listing agent says, well, if you pay me less money, that means the buyer's agent is going to make less money as well. And if the buyer's agent is going to make less money, they might be less incentivized to push their buyers to your home, and they might take their buyers to somebody else. Because now on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, this is where real estate agents list their properties. On the very bottom is this thing called agent remarks, where agents can talk about what's going on with this property, and you can also see how much money you're going to make as a realtor, because it will say you're going to make 3% if you bring your buyer to this home. You'll make 2.5% if you bring a buyer to this home. So what this lawsuit is alleging, or said essentially, is that because now the seller of the home has to agree to this commission price, well, this kind of disincentivizes buyers to actually negotiate on the commission, because as the buyer's agent, they might be more incentivized to sell or push their buyers to a home that's paying out a higher commission than a different home. That's what kind of brought up this lawsuit. So now what this lawsuit is saying is that the seller should not be paying this 6% commission, which is going to be split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. The seller pays a commission or whatever fee that you want to your listing agent, and the buyer should pay for the buyer's agent. So now essentially you have two different types of negotiations going on. You have the sellers that are going to have to do their own negotiating with the listing agent if they decide to work with one, and the buyers are going to have to do their own negotiating with the buyer's agent if they decide to work with one. So now a listing agent might still charge 3%, and a buyer's agent might also still charge 3%. But now it's going to be coming out of your own pocket as opposed to the sales price of the property. That's the main difference according to this lawsuit. Now, this is where you have a lot of headlines and media outlets talking about how real estate commissions are going to be essentially done for. But what you have to remember here is that if you're hiring a real estate agent, they're still doing you a service. They're not going to do this service for you for free. Now, the difference is that the buyers are going to have to negotiate their own fee with the buyer's agent. The sellers are going to have to negotiate their own fee with the seller's agent. Now, in addition to that, the fee that you pay is going to depend on the service that you get. A good service is going to be expensive. This has been the same since forever. Bad service is going to be cheaper. And bad service also generally comes with its own expenses as well. I mean, that's why a lot of times bad service ends up costing you way more money in the long run. But you have to understand that there's going to be a big range of discount brokers, and there's going to be some more higher end, more expensive brokers. That has always been the case. I mean, you've probably seen some realtors charging 3%, 4%, 5% before. And this is where now understanding that, well, the main difference here isn't that realtors are not going to make commissions anymore, because real estate agents are still going to want money to do their services. The difference now is buyers are going to be negotiating with their own buyer's agents. Sellers are going to be negotiating with their own seller's agents. So what brought us here? This is that part two, because the whole kind of reasoning here is that people claimed that the old commission structure created an unfair environment where buyer's agents would push their clients to a property that paid a higher commission. And I'll tell you kind of a funny, honest, true story. You take it for whatever it's worth. I don't really sell many of my rental properties, but when I do, one of the things that I would offer is a higher commission to my realtors. So if we flip this around, in this exact situation, what most people do when it comes to negotiating is they say, oh, you want to charge me a 6% commission? How about you do a 5% commission? So they're trying to negotiate their commissions down. One of the things that I would do is try to negotiate the other way, negotiate upwards. They would say, hey, I will sell this property for you at a 6% commission. And one of the things that I would say is, okay, how about this? If you sell it over $500,000, instead of me giving you a 6% commission, I will do a 7% commission. This way now you can make more money and the listing agent makes more money. So one of the things that I would do is try to incentivize my brokers with more money to get them to sell my property for a higher price. Not to mention, sometimes you'll also see people offer incentives if agents can close, buy or sell a property within a certain amount of time. Sometimes you'll see agents getting paid a $1,000 bonus if they can close a property in the next 30 days, in the next however many days, as an incentive to close a property. So I think the big thing here is really people felt that they didn't have much negotiating power. And sure, I think there will be some more negotiating power here where you'll see more discount brokerages, more discount agents out that will say, you know what, I will sell your property. Instead of a 3% commission, just pay me $2,000. Which will be fine for some people, but some other people, maybe we'll call them more savvy negotiators, they might find alternative ways to negotiate the commission, because at the end of the day, people who are trying to sell their homes are going to want to get top dollar. People who are buying homes are going to want to pay the least amount of money possible. Now, of course, over the last few years, it's been a gold rush for real estate agents. I made a video recently talking about this, where we saw a huge boom of realtors between 2020 and 2022. Part of the reason for that is people were unemployed and people wanted to make money. And number two is people were making so much money as realtors because everybody was buying and selling a home when interest rates were so low and home prices were shooting up. So commission checks were skyrocketing, and the amount of commission checks that were being given out were so many because everybody was buying and selling a home. Now already we've seen kind of this slowdown in the real estate agent market. Part of the reason for that is because, well, interest rates have gone up, so home selling has gone down. We're not seeing the volume of homes sold today as they were back in 21, 2022. So the volume of homes are also slowing down, which has created a lot of tension in the realtor market. A lot of realtors now are kind of debating if they want to be in this industry. The second thing you got to understand is being a realtor is hard. People think it's a lot of easy money because if you sell this $500,000 home, you make $30,000, which, yeah, it's a lot of money, but what you also got to remember is the work isn't necessarily to just list this home and get a buyer. The work is also trying to get the homeowner to get you to sign the paperwork to sell the property through you. That's not an easy thing to do. And so there is a lot of work to actually being a realtor, which is not just selling the home, it's building your business as a realtor. So, I mean, people who do good work want to get paid well. And I think what this is going to do is you're going to see a bigger differentiator between the good agents and the not so good agents, because the good agents who know how to negotiate, who know how to build their book of business, well, they're going to have more negotiating power and more market share, because the people that don't might be doing more of just the discount deals, and they'll make it more difficult for them to be able to potentially continue running and operating their business because they're going to need to do way more deals in order to continue being profitable. Plus, I also think that this could create some innovation, where you'll see more brokerages that will say, we'll list your property for just $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever. Well, they'll just do this base level listing service, which might be fine if you're in a seller's market, but it can be a little bit more difficult if you were in a buyer's market. And so at the end of the day, what does this change? Well, if you're a good realtor, if you're good at what you're doing, I don't think it's gonna make much difference. If you're not so good at what you're doing, I think it might make it a little bit harder. And so just understanding that this new ruling can change how much money you pay in commission. At the end of the day, a good service is gonna cost you money. A bad service might end up costing you even more money in the long run. But at the end of the day, the big difference here is that buyers will probably just be communicating and negotiating with their buyer's agents, and sellers will just be communicating and negotiating with their seller agents. And maybe that means some people might not work with an agent like they thought they might have needed to before. So maybe you'll see some people try to do a deal without an agent because now they no longer want to. Or maybe you'll see some people say, now I will work with an agent because they can find a discount brokerage. I guess we'll really see what happens, but I hope this helps to explain what's going on with this lawsuit and settlement. And this is where I would love to hear your thoughts. What will happen because of the settlement? Will it be good and will it be bad? And do you work in the real estate space? Let me know down in the comments. And again, if you're interested in investing your money in real estate, I would love to see you in my workshop. More than 156,000 people joined the ranks as a real estate agent between 2020 and 2021 combined, which is nearly 60% more than they did the 2 years prior. But the question is why? Well, it was kind of like a double whammy. On one hand, the economy was shut down and unemployment was sky high. And on the other hand, realtors were making a ton